Good evening, everyone. Thank you all for coming out to tonight's moderated MLA Candidate Forum. My name is Trina Jones, and I'm the mayor for the town of Woodstock. Hey, I got a pick. I'd like to first welcome the candidates for the Woodstock Heartland riding. So as I call your name, you can feel free to start to take your position up on the stage, and you can also offer them a warm round of applause as they do so. Ernest Culberson with as an independent. Bill Hogan, Progressive Conservative Party. Jada Roche with the Green Party. Bill Sheaves with the New Democrat Party. Marissa Pelkey with the Liberal Party. And Charlie Weber, the People's Alliance Party. I gotta tip this a bit because this is hard for me. So I want to start off by thanking all the candidates for putting their name forward to represent our great riding. Running for office takes courage, and we believe to share their ideas and platforms fairly. So for those of you in attendance tonight, everybody's listening, right? This is for all of you. This is a reminder that the forum, this event, does not include a question and answer period for the public. And this is an opportunity for all of you right now to turn off your cell phones and all of those things. Please make sure they're on silent mode. We are live streaming this event, and also the round of applause that you just issued will be your last until the end tonight, because for the benefit of those listening online and to help keep us on time, we are going to ask that everyone hold applause so as to not interfere with the general audio experience or to create time delays. Again, this is an opportunity for all of you to hear what each candidate is offering, and I ask that we be respectful to everyone on the stage, so as much as hold back your applause, no heckling either. So please just, all of us, be patient and listen through. We will take a couple hours to get through this. So, and last, I'd like to welcome and thank our moderator tonight, Devin Judge. You want to pop up behind me? So he's volunteered his time tonight and his talents to our event, and I'm sure he's familiar to many of you. And to keep this rolling, we're going to let Devin take the mic over and give a quick introduction, a brief rundown for the format for the candidates, and then we'll get started. So thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Mayor Jones. Good evening, everyone. Good evening, candidates. Tonight we'll discuss topics such as healthcare, public safety, transportation, infrastructure, and housing. At the start of each segment, I will ask the same question to all candidates, and they will each have up to 2 minutes to respond. The candidates will answer the questions based on an order selected at random. The questions are mine and have not been shared with candidates before this evening. Each candidate will have 3 minutes for opening remarks and another 2 minutes at the end for a closing statement. For opening remarks, candidates, we will start on the left and work to the right. For closing remarks, we'll do the opposite. We'll start at the end on the right and work back to the left. We all want a meaningful forum tonight. Constituents want answers, so the candidates have all agreed to respect the time allotted. Good luck to our candidates. We begin with our opening statements, starting with Ernest Culberson.
Good evening. I'm a longtime farmer in Carleton County. I grew up here, went to school here, graduated from WHS. I'd just like to thank the opportunity tonight to come here and to discuss these issues with other candidates. And as I go from door to door, I appreciate the conversations I've had. And just a blessing all overall. Thank you.
Mr. Hogan.
Good evening, everybody, and thank you for coming out. My name is Bill Hogan. I'm the current MLA for the riding. I'm also the current Minister of Education and Early Childhood Development. We are in caretaker mode at the moment, and I'm proud to have served the people of Carleton over the past 4 years, and I'm asking for your support and vote to represent you again in the Legislative Assembly for the next 4 years in the newly named riding of Woodstock, Carleton. I lived here with my family and with my wife Heather now. We've been together here for about 40 years in Woodstock. We've raised 2 children and we have 3 grandchildren. And this is a wonderful community to raise children in, and I think it will continue to be so. We have a lot of opportunities in this riding, and we want to take advantage of those, and we want to continue to work and move forward as a community with economic development and population growth, improving our transportation and housing needs. I served 9 years as a town councillor, and during that time it was extremely interesting. I learned how the inner workings of the town went and how to make decisions for the best interest of the people in the community. After that, I ran for MLA at Carleton. I was elected. I've served 4 years there. My first little bit of being MLA, I was asked to be caucus chair for the PC caucus, and that was an interesting experience. And I would chair meetings and meet on a regular basis with the chief of staff and the premier and different caucus members, depending on what the issue was. After that, I was named to be Minister of Public Safety, and as Minister of Public Safety, it was one of my main issues was the drug problem that we have in this community, in this province. And I got to work right away as Minister of Public Safety in establishing a plan to address the drug issues, the crime issues that we have, along with trying to close in the gaps that we have with the RCMP in rural New Brunswick and in different parts of the province. We're fortunate here because we have a municipal police force, and part of my plan at the time, while I was Minister of Public Safety, was to develop regional police forces, which the current minister is working on, which the town is working on. They've had 3 public meetings and a vote, and I think a decision has been rendered on that. And it's a good way to move forward because we all want to feel safe in our communities. I was instrumental in establishing the Integrated Enforcement Unit. I was then named Minister of Education and Early Childhood Development, where we work on, in the Canada-wide agreement, we're working to provide an average of $10 a day child care spaces. I also believe that parents have the right to be informed about the education of their children in the public school system. And this is extremely important. I also believe in fiscal responsibility, which we've demonstrated over and over again as a government.
Sorry.
Jada Roach.
First, I wanted to say thank you to everybody for coming out tonight, and thank you to those who are watching from home. Being engaged with our political process is probably one of the more important things you can do with your time, aside from voting. And I'm really happy to see so many people turn out. I've lived in Carleton County now for a little over 10 years, and during that time I've raised 2 amazing children, but the better part is I fell in love with Carleton County, so we live in paradise. But I have grown weary of promises coming out of the mouths of those who claim to represent us. I'm tired of watching our beautiful province fall further and further behind our neighbors, be it economically, socially, environmentally. We're tired. We're tired of being told to shush, take what we're given and be happy with it. We're tired of misinformation and deflection. We're tired of seeing minority groups being marginalized and treated as second-class citizens or worse. This election gives you an opportunity for change at the ballot box. We have a chance to genuinely enable New Brunswick and its people to move forward, not just for us, not just for children, but your grandchildren. I've already had 1 child leave this province, and I anticipate my other will leave once their degree is completed at UNB. Why would they stay? Big industries allowed to pillage the land and water, pollute our air, all while weaseling out of their fair share of the tax burden. We have an economy that can't seem to get out of its own way due to the stranglehold certain companies have over it, no matter how many newcomers arrive. And lately, we have social commentary that's full of dangerous rhetoric under the guise of saving the children. Although what we're saving them from, I'm really not sure. Maybe it's literacy we're saving them from, with more than 40% of students scoring below appropriate achievement. I don't see many postcards in the mail on that one, though. This cannot continue. Everybody knows this except those who benefit from the status quo. People are dying, waiting for medical care. How many in this room are among the 180,000 New Brunswickers without a primary care physician? I don't have a doctor. Despite having chronic medical issues that require monitoring, nor do I have any hope that they will change under the current government. Our healthcare system is a fundamental right for every New Brunswicker, and it needs protection from those who want to destroy it with privatization. Each and every one of you deserve timely, competent, and compassionate care. Our healthcare workers deserve to be valued and respected, not worked to the bone and told to do more while being grateful for the job. We should be spending our money on attracting and retaining healthcare workers, not on unfair dismissal lawsuits because our premier had a tantrum in response to a problem he helped create. It's time for change. It's time to put people first. It's time to put you first. New Brunswickers deserve to be heard, and they deserve better than what they're getting. Each and every one of you deserves the fair chance to build a better New Brunswick.
O'Sheets.
Hello, thank you for all coming on a dark evening, wet evening. Nice to see you all. I'm running in this provincial election as the NDP candidate because I was asked to consider it. After considering it for a weekend, I ended up on Monday morning saying, let's go for it. I believe that there's things that's missing in Fredericton. In today's world, the cost of living is through the roof like I've never seen it before, whether it's groceries, power rates with NB Power. The cost of living is skyrocketed, worse than I've ever seen it before in my lifetime, and I'm hearing about it from everyone as well. A lot of people are hurting. A lot of people are hurting they've never experienced before. One time they said it should take two people, a husband and wife, to make income to be above the poverty line, working full-time jobs. In New Brunswick now, it seems like it takes two incomes working full-time, but it also takes the mother and father working part-time jobs as well in order to provide a good home and pay the bills and have a little extra money at the end of the day to spend on leisure things with their children. I believe that there's a voice in Fredericton that's been missing for a while now. That voice is the voice of the New Democratic Party that's always spoken up for the less fortunate. The NDP has always been the voice of the working poor in this province. And I miss that voice in Fredericton. I think Fredericton needs that voice now more than ever. That's why I believe it's important to elect some NDP MLAs to the Legislative Assembly to fight for the working poor in New Brunswick, to fight for everyone. It's time to have their voice back. The party believes in fighting, being the voice of the less fortunate. We need this now more than ever in New Brunswick, in the legislature. We don't need the same old policies of the same old two parties that's been in power for almost 150 years. Well over 100 years, the Liberals and the Conservatives have ruled the province. Look at where we are today. I think we can do better. I think we can do a lot better. And I think there's a lot of people that are being left behind. And the NDP wants to be a voice of them people to bring everybody back together. Thank you.
Marissa Pelkey.
Good evening, bonsoir. Je vous remercie d'être ici ce soir. Thank you all for coming and being here tonight. I'd like to extend thank you to the Town Council for hosting this event, to the moderator and my fellow candidates, as well as my friends and family for being here. So I'm going to take a few moments to tell you a bit about me. I'm your Liberal candidate for the riding of Woodstock Heartland. And Bill, I have you beat. I've been here 44 of my 46 years. I'm a lifelong resident, born and raised here. My father, Peter Powerhill's in the audience tonight, and I'm sure my late mother, Jolene, is watching over me. They instilled in me a strong sense of civic duty and public service. And I grew up here, and I actually spent a lot of time on this very stage growing up. I did move away for a few years to attend university. I completed my Bachelor of Arts degree with honors in psychology at Acadia and graduated in the year 2000. I went to work as an intern in the public service with Department of Justice and Public Safety. While I continue to work full-time here for Justice and Public Safety, I completed my Master of Education degree in Counseling Psychology at UNB. So that's the perspective and where I come from with my education. I graduated in 2009 and started a family here. I'm raising my children here. In the past 23 years, I've worked in the criminal justice system. For 2 years as a probation officer, and for the last 21 years as a victim services coordinator. I've dealt with the most difficult situations and people who have experienced the worst times of their lives. But I'm proud to support those clients and have been able to provide a really important service. Didn't really expect to see my life turn into politics, but frankly, I was very unhappy with the current Higgs government and the direction that they were taking our province. It's not at all what I envisioned for my children. It's not at all what I envisioned for my province. We need to do better. We really do. You're going to hear a lot of information here tonight, a lot of information from fellow candidates, a lot of different perspectives on these topics. I want you to take the time to decide who you want to represent you in the legislature and cast your vote accordingly. Thank you.
Charlie Weber.
Good evening, people. Glad to see you out. A wet night out there. For those, I guess, that don't know me, I'm going to give you a little introduction. I'm Charlie Weber, as you know. I've lived here in this riding since my early childhood. I've worked in this riding for over 40 years, mostly as a construction electrician, which has taken me to all points of the county and beyond. That give me the opportunity to interact and meet a lot of citizens here. And by doing so, I've created some relationships with some of them, and if not relationships, conversations about their concerns and whatnot, and what's going on in this area. We've been neglected by not only the Higgs government, but the Liberal government before that, especially when we're looking at our roads around here. It's been decades for most of the roads. But anyway, I guess it's time that we get somebody to actually speak up and represent us down in Fredericton. Like somebody that's not going to be told to sit in the corner and be quiet, like most of the other parties are. This party's going to allow me to speak up for you guys. And that's what I'm going to do, if elected. I will work as hard as I can for you. I'm far from a politician. I'm just the average guy. But tonight, I am going to think that I'm a politician, I guess, for your guys' advantage. And I'm going to answer these questions to the best of my knowledge. But all I can say, if you elect me into Fredericton, I will work for you instead of the other way. And I will keep in close communication. I will keep the lines open. So if there is concerns, you'll be able to get a hold of me. If I'm, I might be in the legislature or something, but in most cases, I'll be the one carrying the phone. The calls will come directly to me if you have complaints about the roads or this or that. I will respond to you personally. So, if you want a strong voice and a determined voice, vote for me and the People's Alliance Party. Thank you.
Thank you all. Our first theme tonight is transportation. We'll start with Mr. Hogan. Many constituents in the Woodstock-Heartland riding face daily challenges accessing key support services, such as healthcare, education, employment, and even grocery stores, due to a lack of available transportation options. If elected MLA for this riding, how would you work to close the gaps surrounding the transportation issues in this region?
Thanks for the question. Transportation certainly is one of the main issues that we have here, especially with the growing population of newcomers that have come to our beautiful town, that come to our beautiful riding. We're limited in transportation. If you have a car, then you can drive. If you have an electric bicycle, I saw someone coming up the street the other day on an electric bike, then you can do that. The active transportation plan for the town of Woodstock talks about walking paths and bike lanes and trying to have a healthier community. I think that's really important, that active transportation plan. However, that doesn't help you get to the hospital. One of the few choices that you have today is to take a taxi. So your other option, and we had 3 spotlight on seniors workshops to let people know about a dial ride that's provided by the Regional Service Commission, and you can call ahead and they'll give you a drive pretty well anywhere in the province that you need to go if you give them enough lead time, and we'll continue to work with that. I've spoken with the mayor about the community bus. We tried Toonie bus twice while I was on council. Neither time it wasn't successful. We couldn't get enough people to ride the bus to make it a success. However, it may be time to try it again. I know Mayor Machia, they have a bus like community buses, and they have a small public transportation system to help meet the needs of the people in their communities that don't have vehicles of their own. And I think that as part of the provincial government, I'll continue to work with the mayor and council and with the mayors and councils to try and provide these opportunities of a small-scale public transportation service so it doesn't cost people a fortune to get where they need to be.
Ms. Roach?
When I first moved to this county, I did not have my driver's license, as I had always lived somewhere where I didn't really need one. I took the bus, or I walked. Then I moved rural and realized I can't walk to Woodstock, it's 27 kilometers. I can't walk to the hospital, it's even farther. I imagine a number of you in this room have ran into that particular issue for yourself, maybe for a parent or a friend. How do I get them there? Why is this not easier? Why is a shuttle system not in place within the region? It cuts emissions if we're in less cars. It helps a large group of people all at once if we can get a bus moving correctly. And even if a bus idea wasn't necessarily going to be feasible for the area, setting up some sort of shuttle system so you can get to your appointments would be the very bare minimum that we could do. There's lots of larger items that could be applicable here if we had the right infrastructure, like rail. Light rail would be fabulous, but we just don't have the infrastructure in the area. So maybe we look at expanding buses, so we actually have some solid way of transporting. We can't even transport our school kids. So maybe it's time to move to a different model of busing. Always something to think about. At the end of the day, we need to move our people. We don't all drive, and we have to rely on each other. So I'd like to see more bus.
30 seconds at the bell.
I'm good.
Okay, fair enough. Mr. Sheaves?
I believe the number one thing to do would be, as an MLA, to sit down with the town councils, with the mayors, in larger and smaller communities and have a real good discussion and find solutions, because we do obviously need it in this area, especially with the growing numbers that's moving into the towns, in the riding. The NDP as a party will introduce a public transportation grant program to help rural municipalities start up their own small public transit systems. We'll also establish a provincial crown corporation tasked with providing intercity bus services across New Brunswick. That's where the party stands. As I said, we have a growing number of population moving into towns like Woodstock, small areas like Lakeville, all throughout the riding. The riding's a big riding. Be nice to have some kind of bus, like van, to go through the riding anyhow, right? From Mill, Gothic up to Florenceville. That would be an awesome thing to have. And I think, like I said in the beginning, the number one thing as an MLA is to sit down with the town councils, with the mayors, and have maybe even town meetings to come up with a solution. As an NDP MLA, the number one thing would be to have regular town hall meetings with constituents. And I pledge to do that if elected as an NDP MLA, to have regular town hall meetings to meet with constituents all throughout the riding, at least once a month. Thank you.
Ms. Pelkey?
Thank you. So transportation in rural communities is an inherently challenging issue. It's difficult to address, and it's much more difficult to address when you have a smaller population base to support that infrastructure. I acknowledge that there are many efforts to offer the service to address the needs that have been tried in the past, whether it's ride shares, small bus routes, those sorts of things, but for whatever reason at that time with those plans that were made, we weren't able to find the success and the sustainability that the community would have been looking for. The rising cost of gas and other conditions of individual transportation, plus wear and tear on vehicles because of deteriorating roads, it's making having a vehicle more cost prohibitive than ever before. The other thing that I've noticed as I've been going door to door and speaking with residents as we've been campaigning is that the demographics of our area, it's changing. We have a lot of newcomers to this area. We have a lot of people from out of province who may have, like Jada, worked in and lived in areas where public transportation was accessible. So I think what we need to do in order to address the problem is we need to look at what other jurisdictions have had success with. But it can't just be trying to take the Toronto bus service and implement it here. We know that that's not going to work. What we need to do is look at other jurisdictions similar to ours in demographics and size and implement what they've done here. Miramichi has a bus service. PEI has a rural bus service. We can learn a lot from those. And what we need to do is look at best practices. We need to build partnerships amongst levels of government and between other municipalities. We need to understand the issue and we need to be able to collaborate for a solution that's going to work here.
Mr. Culberson?
Yes, I've noticed around town that there's several taxi services now. First thing I would do is make sure they're fully employed and not step on their toes with anything the government might want to offer. And also, I believe in empowering others. That's the type of leadership that I'm used to, was trained under. So I would make phone calls, work with volunteer services that are already existing, and try to bring people together to solve the issues. And perhaps there's software apps out there that could be used in time. And thank you.
Mr. Weber?
Yes, transportation issues, yeah, like the others have said, in rural areas, it's tough to set up a bus system and have it feasible. Because, I mean, how many people are going to travel it? Because probably 90% or more of the people that live out in the rural areas have their own vehicles. I can see the issue being a little bit more here in the town of Woodstock. But as Mr. Hogan has said earlier, when he was on council years ago, they tried a little bit of a bus service and it didn't work, it failed. And I do agree that maybe we could, for this area here in Woodstock, try something like that again. And I would be willing, as an MLA, to work with the government here, the council, to set something up and get it going. But I can't see anything really that feasible to run a bus service out in the rural areas here. I don't think you would have enough people that needed it or wanted it enough. But that would be something I guess we could look at too when we was getting a bus system or something going here again in Woodstock. But right now, I don't see there's a lot of issues because we do have cabs. I know they are a little bit more costly, but we're not stuck. We can go if we have to. I mean, I guess there is a little bit of, some people, it's a little more of affordability, but I guess let's try to work on getting that bus for this town and other towns in the riding if it's going to help the elderly, especially, to get to the grocery store or doctor's appointments or stuff like that. But yes, I would be willing as an MLA to sit down with the councils of the towns to see if we can get a bus system or something that's a little bit cheaper than taxis. Thank you.
Thank you all. Our next topic is healthcare. Again, based on a random draw, this goes to Ms. Pelkey first, and we will continue on in a random order. The strain on our healthcare system is being felt at all levels, from emergency and base care to specialized treatments and testing. The waiting list for family doctors continues to grow, and having to travel across the province for specialized services is becoming commonplace. What is your plan to both maintain and improve access to health care for those in this riding?
Thank you. It's a well-known fact that 180,000 New Brunswickers are without a family physician. And those are the individuals who happen to be registered as not being with a family doctor. There are many more people who haven't registered, and I've talked to them at the doors as I've been knocking and meeting with people. And I encourage them to register because accurate statistics are from which we will need to work and formulate our plan. Access to primary care is the number one issue that is brought up at the doors. And in case you haven't heard, the whole government has a plan, and we've announced the plan specifically in how it will impact the riding of Woodstock Heartland last Friday. Susan Holt attended, and we've committed to opening a community care clinic here in Woodstock Heartland in 2025. That's a commitment that the people of the riding have been waiting for 6 or 7 years. This is not a new ask. This isn't something that we just pulled out of a hat. It's something that people have been working at for a long time. Now, I'm not even on the job yet, but I already feel like I've accomplished so much by meeting with stakeholders, by talking with professionals in the community, by advocating to Susan Holt, and I'm so thankful that she listened to the concerns and she was prepared to act on that. So the collaborative care model is what healthcare professionals want to work in. It's going to improve retention and recruitment. It's going to allow the professionals to focus on providing care. And you may hear my friends opposite criticize the spending, but I assure you that we cannot afford to not do this. These clinics are all costed, and you can check out our platform for those details. And I'm proud to be able to have already accomplished something for them.
Mr. Sheaves?
Well, this is one of the reasons why I really would like to have a different voice in Fredericton than the two old parties that have ruled the province. I want new solutions, new ideas, breath of fresh air. I believe a new party can offer that, even to have their voice back in the legislature. To answer the question, to tackle the nursing shortage is one thing. I'm lucky. I have a family physician. I've had one for years. He's great, but I hear where you're coming from, Jada. There's a lot of people in my own family and neighbors that don't have a family physician. They have to travel to an ER. They have to sit there for a ridiculous 7-8 hours before they get the help they need. I think that's just mind-blowing. We live in New Brunswick. We're in Canada, and our healthcare system is where it is today, and in this province as well. It's shameful. We need to do something different. Tackling the nurse shortage will stop, the NDP will stop the use of expensive travel nurse contracts to instead invest in recruitment and retention of nurses in the public system. We will immediately match PEI's wage bonus for new recruits, including rural areas, and student loan compensation packages. That's one thing the party believes in doing, and will do if we have a chance. Thank you.
Mr. Culberson?
As I've gone door to door, I have heard this issue many times over. it is very acute. I've had people come up to me at the Tuesday markets and also talk to me about it. I am aware of people that have family members that have been trained as doctors, perhaps in other countries, that perhaps could be doctors here if certain things were changed. I would certainly take a look at that. Let's also look at the provincial budget and past policies to kind of ascertain what's been going on in terms of recruiting doctors and nurse practitioners. And again, that would empower others. And if we had to, we'd work on a private-public partnership to raise money to get doctors and nurse practitioners into our community as fast as possible. Thank you.
Mr. Hogan.
This is a problem that's right across Canada. It's not one that started overnight, and it's not one that's going to be cured overnight. One citizen without a doctor is one too many. 6.9 million Canadians do not have a family physician today in Canada. You know, the collaborative care model, we've been talking about that in Woodstock since my time on council. It was supported by all kinds of people. It's one thing to build it, it's an entirely different thing to staff it. I checked it out. There were no staff lined up to staff the announcement made Friday. It was the same announcement that was made yesterday in Rosyth. And I commend them for making the announcement, but we got to fill it with it. The biggest thing we need to do, and what I've been working on, is making sure that our hospital is going to continue to function. A couple of years ago, Dr. John Dornan decided that he wanted to close down labor and obstetrics. The Premier and I worked hard all weekend long to reverse that decision. Early this summer, they announced a whole list of dates when labor and delivery was going to be closed again, right up from the beginning of summer, right up in through November. I went to work immediately with Horizon Health and was successful in seeing that didn't happen. We've increased the number of seats that we have for New Brunswick and medical seats to 74. In recruiting the doctors, we offer them $100,000 to come to rural New Brunswick, and we'll continue to do that. One of the biggest challenges that we have in New Brunswick with getting doctors licensed is with the College of Physicians and Surgeons. Most people blame the government. However, you can't practice medicine in New Brunswick if the College of Physicians and Surgeons doesn't give you permission to do so. I think they have a good plan that they've started, but it needs to be ramped up, and they need to deliver with a little bit more urgency. Thank you.
Mr. Weber.
Yes, I totally agree that this healthcare, that's the most critical thing in this province, for sure. The shortage of nurses, I guess I'm going to address that first. They've been told by the Higgs government when they wanted a little bit more money, and they said they could go elsewhere and get it, well, Higgs told them to go. So a lot of them went. So they left. What nurses decided to stay here, short-handed, and they're overworked and underpaid, as far as I'm concerned. It's pretty bad when a nurse gets paid less than an MLA. Like, really. I really like to trade pays with them, really. Like, they deserve it more than I would. But anyway, that's where we got to get the nurses back in here, give them the pay equity with other jurisdictions around us. The doctors, well, Mr. Hogan had mentioned about the issues with getting the licensing and this and that. Well, as an MLA, I would pressure this licensing board to recognize some of these foreign doctors and stuff. Because, I mean, if they're capable of operating in India or Pakistan or Brazil or whatever, they're not witch doctors. I mean, they're probably, in a lot of cases, smarter than some of the doctors we already have here on staff. So let's pressure the legal end of getting these doctors out here working for us. Anyway, thank you.
Ms. Roach.
I think a good place to start would be to make sure our healthcare transfers go to healthcare. Be nice to see. We all agree that we need more community health supports. We can make an announcement and say we're going to build a clinic, but if I recall correctly, the one in Florenceville is still desperately looking for doctors. And I don't know if just focusing in on build a clinic is going to bring them. It's not the field of dreams, unfortunately. So what do we do instead? We build multidisciplinary teams that can collaborate. You should be able to walk into a room, talk to a doctor, get your phlebotomist, get your blood done, go talk to somebody else that's a specialist in what you need. Now, it's not always going to cover everything off, but wouldn't it be nice to have a one-stop shop of sorts? Maybe your pharmacist is there too. We need to think differently when it becomes this big of a problem. We're aging, we like it or not, I don't. We're going to need the healthcare system more, and just as we need it, it's failing us desperately. We need to be recruiting and retraining. Specifically, we need to retain the people who are here. If they're being told, you don't like it, go somewhere else, and they go, what's it say about us? We need to make sure that we are setting our students up for success so that when they come out of school, they have a job and they will work with us. If we aren't doing any of those things, no doctor is going to want to stay in this environment. Last time I was in the ER was one doctor running around with his head cut off. It's not fair to them. It's not fair to you. Thank you.
Our third topic this evening is housing. And we will start this topic with Mr. Weber. There is currently a lack of housing options to meet the varying demographic needs within the region. What do you see as the key housing-related issues in this area, and what will be your fundamental approach to tackling these issues?
There definitely is a lack of rentals around here. I know of people that are waiting forever to get places and stuff and end up staying with friends and relatives and whatnot. I'm not really sure what we got to do to get more places built, because I'm looking around, and Woodstock here especially, the cooks are developing more and more buildings. Again, some of those aren't affordable, so I don't know really how we can make it any more affordable, because it costs a lot to build these buildings and stuff, so they can't give the rent away. So I don't know, maybe there's some way we could have some rent subsidies for the lower income and to help them get into these here more expensive places. Definitely there should be a little bit of a rent cap deal on any kind of rentals too. We can't let the owners just charge what they want. But I'd be willing to work with government to try to resolve this problem, along with the municipal governments and the provincial government. I don't know really what else to say. I guess it'd be something I would definitely work on if elected, to make things more affordable and more plentiful. Thank you.
Mr. Hogan?
Thank you. Who would have foreseen the population increase that we've experienced in New Brunswick over the last couple of years? Who would have foreseen the number of people from other parts of Canada that have come and purchased houses for prices that we've never seen here before, have price wars to buy houses? We have a need of affordable housing. As a government, we recognize that, and we're acting on it. We're the first government in almost 40 years to invest in public housing. We're spending $100 million to build 380 new homes and to make 110 unlivable homes livable so people can go in them. We've increased our housing budget by 23%, and since releasing our housing strategy, the province has recorded 5,322 housing starts just since the beginning of July. You know, it's not a solution overnight, but we're working on it. We're going to continue to do that. We're supporting Ironwood Manufacturing in their construction of their new modular home, 117,000 square foot facility. That's going to increase our housing stock as soon as they're up and running overnight. And it will also increase the employment opportunities in this area. We invest $22 million annually directly into tenant rental benefits, and that's assisting over 1,500 households in the province. You know, we established a rent bank because we recognize that times are tough and folks struggle from time to time. And since we established the rent bank, we have given out over $800,000 to 536 households. And that's just since mid-August. You know, we have affordable housing rental program. It encourages developers to build affordable housing. And as of August 33 of these projects are underway. I'm cut off.
Yep.
Ms. Pelkey.
So the main issue at hand is affordability. That is key. However, when inventory is low, it doesn't really matter what you can afford or what you can't. A whole government has a plan, and it's a key part of our platform. A whole government will remove the PST off of new builds to encourage construction in all parts of New Brunswick. A rent cap will be implemented to help stabilize housing costs, but government can't do it all alone. Specifically with a local need, a survey of staff at a local manor revealed that housing and childcare are a significant need, the top two issues related to their employment or challenges of attending to employment. We have local success here, though, and I don't think that those should be overlooked. We have local business people who want to be part of the solution. We need to partner with them, and we need to make the conditions amenable to encouraging them to build affordable homes. We also have local success with cooperative housing, and I happened, again, as a theme, as I was door knocking in various neighborhoods throughout the riding, I came across a lovely little neighborhood and happened to knock on the door of the gentleman who actually oversees the cooperative housing. And the knowledge that he has and the expertise that he has is obviously wholly untapped. They offer lovely homes to families at a very affordable price. And I was shocked actually at the price, but I think we need to take those examples and duplicate them, but that's going to take partnership between the municipalities and the provincial government. Also, a major factor is the property tax, and that will need to be reformed to balance stable income for municipalities and affordability for residents. Thank you.
Mr. Culberson.
Recently, I bought a home in the town of Woodstock, and the first thing I realized is there's a 1% transfer tax on all new homes these days, and that was a shock. That's something that I would like to see waived for any young couple that's buying their first home. So it would be a land transfer tax exemption for first-time home buyers. I don't know if it's existing, but if I was your local MLA, I would try to host an annual general meeting of the landlords, the town of Woodstock, town of Heartland, and the state of the housing summit. I would review existing statute and regulations regarding rent fee structures, and then ascertain from there what can be done. And I've been a long-time advocate for a public bank of New Brunswick to help first-time new homeowners purchase without a down payment, and this would be modeled after the state of North Dakota's public bank model. Thank you.
Ms. Roach.
Rent has increased on average over 10% this past year. We've lost 8,600 affordable units between 2016 and 2021, leaving over 10,000 households waiting for subsidized housing. For interest sake, I checked out to see how many households there were in Woodstock, about 2,500. We need to prioritize the New Brunswick housing, working with them to create affordable housing and expand options there. We need to remember that housing is not a commodity to be bought and sold like you might sell a car. It's a fundamental human right to have a roof over your head. We also need to regulate short-term rentals, which have decimated the rental availability. How far that goes within the region, I'm not quite sure, but I know even up the road from me, there's 3 or 4 units, and I live in the middle of nowhere. So it would be nice to see us put a little rigor around what's allowed, because if I need to rent somewhere, do my rights trump yours as being able to sell it out to a tourist? I don't know what that answer is, but it's something worth exploring. The bigger issue is reviewing the property tax system, allowing municipalities the freedom to decouple the industrial rates from residential. It needs to be a full public inquiry to see how is it working and why is it not working, because some of the tax increases that I've heard of, no wonder people can't afford their homes. Most of us can't really take a hit of $2,000, $3,000, $4,000 and survive it.
Sheets?
Well, you see this is another example of people are hurting more than ever. I'm hearing that all the time as I meet people and talk to everyone. It's the same old story. And right now in New Brunswick, the cost of buying a home is ridiculous. It's 3 times more than it was in 2020 when I purchased my home. And if you are not lucky to own a home, then if you look into an apartment to rent, it's just mind-blowing, like $2,000 at least a month for an apartment to rent in the town of Woodstock on average. There's something wrong with the way this situation is now, and it's the social issues and the cost of living. This all goes into that. Like, people can't afford housing. NDP government will immediately cap residential rent increases at no more than 2% each year. NDP would also cap commercial rent increases at the same rate for small businesses. We would also dedicate more than $120 million in the first budget to clear the wait list for social housing, building and acquiring 11,000 public housing units. It's an issue that's real. It's something that we shouldn't be facing. There's a lot of reasons why this may be this way or that may be that way, but this is a situation that needs to change, and I hope it does. Thank you.
Topic number 4 is roads and government infrastructure, and we'll begin with Mr. Shees. The maintenance level of provincially managed roads and infrastructure is often criticized within our riding. As MLA, how would you ensure that these concerns are given the attention and prioritization that they require?
Well, for one instance is Minister Steves, instead of forecasting small surpluses, and at the end we have huge surpluses. Some of this money should be given back to the municipalities. It is true that our roads are bad, worse than some areas than others. I find the municipalities are not so bad, but the rural areas, some of the rural roads I've been on, it's just like, holy smokes, I drive an SUV, which is a pretty good sized vehicle. I'm glad I am, because if I was driven a small car, I'd be really upset, because I think it would be a tremendous repair cost. So the Department of Transportation needs to be invested by the provincial government. Blaine Higgs and Ernie Steves needs to invest more in the Department of Transportation and help the municipalities out as well, with more money given to the municipalities for things like this. Thank you.
Mr. Culberson.
As a farmer, I've witnessed how good our roads are, I guess, to be sarcastic sometimes maybe, but there has been some roads fixed lately in the Carleton County area over the last number of years. I will give thanks where thanks is due, I guess. So, in some places the roads are not safe, especially for potato trucks. I've witnessed that. And our school buses. And I guess if I was your MLA, I would certainly do everything I could to fix those areas that need attention, and to talk to the superintendents in charge of each set of roads, whether it be Centerville, Woodstock, Coldstream, you name it. I would do my best to work with each one. Thank you.
Ms. Palpy.
Thank you. As part of our platform, a Holt government is committed to an asset management plan to address the priorities for road and bridge work and for maintenance of our physical infrastructure. That's in our platform. I invite you to read for more detail. As I go door to door, particularly outside of the towns of Woodstock and Heartland, I would say number 2 to healthcare would be roads. People tell me about the difficulty that they experience driving over unrepaired roads, disrepaired roads that get worse and worse as the season goes on. Another issue is the failure to repair adequately or to the expectation of citizens. I would like to be able to say that the politicization of road paving is a thing of the past, but if you've driven to Fosterville or Minto in the last couple of months, you'd see that that's not true when it comes to the Higgs government. A Holt government has a fair and balanced plan for addressing the concerns as they relate to roads and infrastructure. Transparency on this is going to be key because people deserve to know how decisions are made, what decisions are being made, and how priority is being given. I think informed citizens will understand and accept, and what that will do in turn is build trust in their government, that they're making sound decisions, that they're making rational decisions, and be able to hold their government accountable for the decisions that they've made. Thank you.
Mr. Weber.
Yeah, the roads, the condition here in Carleton County. As Marissa said, you leave this county. I've been to the North Shore and down to the southeast. They got beautiful roads, even the back roads, compared to Carleton County. We've been neglected here for decades, not just years, decades. Both the Liberals and the Conservatives just bubblegum our roads. Take a drive down. There's, it's all patches. There's more patches than there is road. And the reason being is lack of maintenance over the years. Another reason being they're allowing trucks of mega weight on these back roads that shouldn't be on them. They've got big logging trucks that technically are illegal on these back roads that are just chip seal covered, and they can't take that weight. So we got to govern. Can't be scared of Irving because most of those trucks that are is Irving. But it seems that the two primary parties here, they cater to Irving all the time. But I ain't scared of him. I mean, what you gonna do? Put a hit out on me? But anyway, that's what we got to do. We got to get out, fix the roads properly, and get the darn heavy traffic off it. Because if you fix it, they're just going to ruin it. Let's get the law out there on it. I live in rural New Brunswick. I can remember years ago, I used to call them bumblebee transport there because they had them little bumblebee vehicles, colors or whatever, and they governed the back roads, and you'd see them with truck stop, and the roads were somewhat decent, but no, they've had them now. Thank you.
Ms. Roach.
Thank you. My joy with our infrastructure for roads was really hammered home when I was hitting potholes on the Trans-Canada Highway. It was incredibly impressive, I will say that. And it's no worse or better than the 560 that I live on, which is a continual comedy of bumps, bruises, axles breaking, suspension collapses. We need to put money into this. We need to stop picking the lowest bidder because they might save us a little money. I'm not saving a lot of money when I have to replace my car. You're not saving any money when it's delaying you from getting somewhere, when it pops an axle because you hit a pothole in the middle of winter. We really need to remember that while infrastructure is not sexy, it's the backbone of our community. If I can't drive down Connell without thinking, hey, I'm a little out of alignment, it's a little worrisome. So at the end of the day, it's just a matter of putting money into it and taking the politics out of it. It shouldn't matter who is running this riding. We all live here. We all want to be able to safely commute to wherever we're going. It's not fair that heavy equipment, heavy business, that they're going over these roads over and over again, and they're destroying them to a degree. We're hearing about a mine that's going to be built. What are those logging trucks and mining trucks going to do to your road? It's going to make it worse. The answer is money, unfortunately, money and time, and I think we can do both. Thank you.
Mr. Hogan.
Thank you. I'd say the number one complaint that I receive in the office is about the roads. And it has been since I took office. And part of the problem with that is because when the Conservatives, when we're in power, we try and play catch up and we try and do what we can to fix the roads. And Doug and I, my executive assistant, drive the roads on a regular basis, and I want to wish Doug well tonight. He's watching and wish him a speedy recovery. We've spent in the last 4 years $20.4 million on our roads here in Carleton County. We've done some patchwork, and we've done some pulverizing, and we've done rebuilt new roads. It's not cheap, and it is a game of catch-up. And the last couple of winters have been tough. And I said, if you're going to fix the road, take your time, fix it right, so we don't have to come back and do it again. It's all our money. So when you look at building a road, and we pulverize, because some roads get so bad you can't fix them. You can only fill in the potholes so many times, and then they get too dangerous to drive on. And the Rosedale Road would be a good example of that, and we pulverized half of that this year, and we rebuilt it. And we're going to do the other half next year. It's $100,000 a kilometer to do that. We did the road in Mount Pleasant. We pulverized that, and we rebuilt that one. That was $100,000 a kilometer. That hadn't been done since Richard Hatfield. So, it is important. It's important to make sure the water gets off the roads, make sure that we do the appropriate ditching so that, the roads will withstand the traffic on them. There was a lot of heavy traffic on the roads that they weren't built for. Public safety is out there on a regular basis, and I call them to say that there's overloaded trucks driving on this road, and they're driving at 2 o'clock in the morning. And they send crews out there to try and catch them doing that. But that is not a solution. Each party needs to invest in the roads.
Thank you. Our next topic is public safety. Rural communities face unique challenges in upholding public safety, particularly in critical areas such as policing, community support services, and emergency response. If elected to represent our riding, how will you, in this role, help ensure adequate support and funding is available to address these issues? We'll start with Mr. Culberson.
To address this question directly, support and funding, obviously I'd be new to any role as an MLA if given the opportunity to legislature. I would look into the budgets of the existing parts of the government that would oversee public safety and do my best to support town Woodstock in whatever decisions they make regarding policing and Harlan and the surrounding areas. Thank you.
Ms. Roach.
Green Party would provide fundings for communities and regions to empower them so they can implement community policing using local police forces. I think we're all, those of us who live rural, more than a little disappointed with the RCMP coverage. I hear stories daily about break-ins, speedings, threatenings, you name it, it's happening. We need to start finding alternate solutions for how we police these areas. We also need to see some increased funding for community organizations like domestic violence groups, sexual assault groups. We need to fund rural courts so we can start reducing the backlogs and actually dealing with the criminals before they go out and do something again, because all of that's been clawed back from us. What I'd really like to see is an increase in addiction services. We know that a lot of the crime in the area is rooted in drug use. Instead of just grabbing them and throwing them into a program where they may not be compliant, we need to build addiction services in places like Woodstock and other locations so that people who are addicted can get the help they need so they aren't out robbing, stealing, threatening, taking your stuff just to feed a habit. Truly believe if we could get that drug problem under control and managed, the crime would start decreasing, homelessness would start decreasing, but we need to make sure it's a choice. We can't just throw anybody away. Thank you.
Mr. Sheaves? Sorry, Mr. Hogan.
Public safety is extremely important. Citizens need to feel safe in their homes, need to feel safe in their communities. And this is something that's not new, and I've heard a lot about it even before I became an MLA. When I was Minister of Public Safety, we went to work to try and immediately work on safer communities. There's a variety of different things that are available to people in their communities We have the RCMP that are our provincial police force. And one of the things about replacing them that makes it challenging at the local level is we receive a 30% subsidy from the federal government to have the RCMP police our province. Now, what we don't get told is that there's a 30% soft vacancy rate with them. So we need to look at real solutions. So part of the real solutions is regional policing in areas where they do have a municipal police force. And I spent a lot of time spoken to Woodstock, I spoke in Quispam-Sis, to the Canada-Casis Regional Police Force and about expansion. I was in Hamilton talking to them about their municipal police force and the possibility of expanding. However, citizens need to decide when they're going to do that if they want to pay the money to support those regional police forces, because they are very expensive and it costs money. Some communities have been very inventive. Richmond Corner has a very successful community watch program. I think that that's important. We need to look out for each other as we did for years and years. And many people in many communities know who's committing these crimes. The Hook and Release program is a direct result of the Trudeau government and their policies. The criminal code is federal, which falls under the domain of the federal government, and they've been resistant to creating a bail policy that will see criminals stay in jail.
Mr. Sheets.
Okay, so as a party, this is something more provincial, but again, it could happen right here in this riding as well. The NDP, we're all shocked by the tragic deaths of Chantel Moore, Rodney Levi, chiefs representing from all over. The demand of public inquiry into the systematic racism within policing and the justice system. We would answer their call with a full provincial public inquiry and work with the federal government to expand the scope of the inquiry to the RCMP. Now, for me personally in this riding here, I want to say, like, I think we're all lucky to have Woodstock Town Police here. They're great. I think they're wonderful, Woodstock Town Police. We are very lucky to have these people with Woodstock Police in this riding. I'm very happy. I salute them. RCMP may be a little different, as Rhoda said. Jada, I'm sorry. And the reason is with the RCMP is because they're stretched so much in a wide area. They're stretched. They're short-staffed. And that's the issue, is outside of the municipality. So I would support what Mayor Harvey in the other riding was trying to do, and I would support that here as well in this riding. And we would commit $4.5 million to the MB, as already I believe promised by the Higgs government. The NDP would also go through with that same level of funding, $4.5 million from the New Brunswick government that would help with transition. So I believe this would be a wonderful thing, and I'd love to see it happen. Thank you.
Mr. Weber.
Yes, the policing. Yeah, you have your town police here, that's great. You're a town, I guess. Regional police, again, the affordability. But I'd be willing to, sit down with a committee to figure out what is our best bet. Is it to get regional police or to stay with the RCMP, and which obviously I think we need probably a few more members of them around here, because it's a big area, and I think they're stretched out there. They are doing a good job. They are bringing a lot of the criminals, whether they're drug addicts or just plain thieves, they're bringing them to the court system. But for some reason, there's a lot of them that end up just walking. So whether that's Trudeau's fault or it's the judge's fault, I don't know. But that's something that we've got to look into there, because as far as I'm concerned, the police are doing a pretty good job for what they've got to work with. So I would sit down, figure out what the best policing situation would be for the region, and go with that, and then work on why people are walking after they get to court. it's ridiculous. I mean, that would be my priority, just, so we'd be safe and not have to worry about getting up in the morning and finding the garage broken into and all your tools gone. Anyway, that's pretty much all I can say about that. So, but I would be willing to work with it and see what our best options would be. Thank you.
Ms. Pelkey.
Thank you. Well, it's no surprise that the provision of policing services is one of the most important and most expensive services provided by local government. Little interesting tidbit that 90% of the offenses committed are committed by about 10% of offenders. And of those 10%, there's a 3% that are prolific offenders, chronic recidivism offenders, and dangerous offenders. Mr. Hogan, during your tenure of Minister of Public Safety, I don't recall you visiting our office, 1 block away from your constituency office, but perhaps I missed you. But on that, I'd like to say that our frontline workers, police, criminal justice workers, are uniquely positioned to be able to speak about what works and what doesn't, and I'm one of those workers. Now, there are multiple New Brunswick municipalities that are focused on police funding models. The town of Woodstock in particular has taken on the huge task of exploring the feasibility, and I commend them for all of the work that they've done and the very difficult decision that they've positioned themselves to make. A whole government is committed to working with municipalities, policing, and justice stakeholders to ensure that all of our communities feel safe with a fair funding model to support those efforts. We can't ignore the fact that most crime is a byproduct of circumstances. It's no coincidence that we're seeing a rise in crime as affordability challenges, addictions, mental health are reaching our community. Unfortunately, staying in jail is not a solution to crime. It's only a temporary measure. A whole government will work to bolster mental health care, affordable housing, and genuine wraparound services that are truly going to make a difference in the public safety of our communities. Thank you.
We have time for one more question. I thank you all for being brief. And the topic is political polarization. With each passing day, political decorum continues to drive a greater divide in our communities at the regional, provincial, and national levels. How would you promote a less adversarial political forum that would help unite our communities? We'll start with Ms. Roach.
Well, to start with, it would be nice if each party could get along with all of its members. I think that would go a long way to killing some of the adversity that we're seeing within the caucus. Secondary, let's stop with the culture wars. My child is trans. I have had to see postcards and all kinds of other rhetoric that, I'm sorry, we're better than that. We need to demand better of our elected officials. They need to act like grown-ups, and they need to prove anything that they're going to talk about with fact. They need to use science. They need to use data. If we are not focusing on reality, why are they there? What are they doing for you? Are they making decisions based on their feelings? Because a lot of it feels like feelings. Nobody's reading the science or the data, and people like my child ultimately are the ones who suffer. It would be nice to just have the legislature of old, where you had to stand up and be nice to each other, instead of Elbowgate or whatever our version is of that in New Brunswick. Mostly, I just want everybody to get along and work for the good of the province instead of themselves. Thank you.
Mr. Weber.
Yeah, this is kind of a tough one, I guess, but yeah, there's way too much hate between different people, and we're people. We're all people, and people matter. I don't care what your gender is, what your political thoughts are, or what your wants are, or anything like that. Let's just remember that we're all people, and people matter. And that's pretty much it. Let's all try to get along. Let's stick together. It's dividing the country by this hate towards one another. Let's Stick together. People matter. Thank you.
Ms. Pelkey.
So to remind of the question, how would you promote a less adversarial political forum? It starts with leadership, plain and simple. And I think, fortunately, in this election, we have very contrasting examples of the leadership that we are going to be choosing between. We've had 4 years plus 2 of a Higgs government, and the leadership has continued to evolve to what it is. Unprecedented resignations and stepping back of central cabinet ministers. We've never seen anything like that before, and I think that speaks directly to the type of leadership that Mr. Higgs is portraying. In contrast, Susan Holt's leadership is one of the core reasons why I'm up here today. Before I ever made any decision of what I was going to do or whether or not I would take this leap, I met with her. I asked her some tough questions. I wanted to get a sense of what her leadership was like. And because she was able to demonstrate that to me and has continued to build on my understanding of what her leadership is, I have the utmost confidence in her ability to lead our province. But it's not just going to be her. It's not going to be like what we're seeing, Higgs Way or the Highway. It's going to be a team. We have 49 candidates, including Ms. Holt, all across the province who are working together. We collaborate, we share ideas, and we're already working like a team like I've never been part of before. But we'll also need to lead by example in our communities, how we're going to represent the people. We need to be accountable to the public. So I'm telling you, you need to hold your elected representatives accountable for how they behave and how they show leadership in our communities. And when we focus on the best interests and priorities of citizens and live together well, we will achieve success. Thank you.
Mr. Sheaves.
Well, you see, first of all, the opposite to the question, because yes, it's true that the Higgs government is the most divisive government in this province's history. It's longtime cabinet ministers running for opposition parties, resigning their seats, resigning their cabinet posts. I've never seen the likes of it in this province ever. So it's the most divisive government in this province's history. So thank you, Blaine Higgs, for that. But on the other side, the Liberals are, in the opposition, they're like NDPers. They say the same thing as the NDP. But once they gain the power, they're the new Conservatives. So I don't see any change with the whole government that they did with the Sean Graham government and a Brian Gallant government. It's going to be the same old, so we really need a new voice in the legislature. That's the NDP. Now, to the question that you asked, none of these people up here are enemies to me or opponents to me. I respect every single one. We have different opinions, maybe. We're representing different parties, but none of them are enemies to me. We're colleagues, want the best for the riding for New Brunswick. We live in a democracy, and that, my friends, is the most beautiful thing of all, is democracy and democratic process to go out and cast the vote that you want for whether it's Liberal, Conservative, Green, People's Alliance, Independent, or the NDP. That's the best thing that we have here, and thank you.
Mr. Hogan.
Thank you. I think some of the rhetoric could stop. That would be a step in the right direction. Somebody asked me why I wasn't in the same office and why I was moved across the street to my campaign office. And I said, because we're running, and I'm running for the Progressive Conservative Party to be the MLA for Woodstock, Harlan. But once elected, then I'm the MLA for all the citizens of the riding. Doesn't matter how you vote. So that's why I had to move across the street, and that's how it works. You know, it doesn't. It's a secret ballot, even though some might suggest to others that they, not be truthful on who they vote for. That's how it works. So I think that we need to recognize and accept the differences of other people. And you can't call me a name that I haven't been called twice because I disagreed with a group of people. And what I got is trying to be shouted down, and I've been called every name that you can imagine. And even some that I'd never heard of before. And I think that if we want to get along, then we got to stop calling each other names. And we got to start listening more. Because it's only through listening that we can achieve real dialogue. And we need to celebrate our differences, because we do have differences. and they're not a bad thing. These differences make up the fabric of New Brunswick, of Carleton County, of Canada, and we should be proud of that. You know, I didn't grow up in the same family that you did, and I don't have the same background or heritage that you did. My skin color is not the same color as other people. I don't have the same perspective. But I can respect the perspective of other people. And I think that in true dialogue, and through listening, having real conversations, then we can bring some decorum and dignity back to politics in New Brunswick.
Mr. Cullerson.
I'm just going to repeat the question. And I guess, how would I promote a less adversarial political forum that would help unite our communities? I just want to state the fact that the Elections Act allows for independents to run in each riding, and it governs how those independents are registered, or unregistered in my case. In regards to political polarization, I don't have a party leader per se. Going back to the question directly, I would like to offer to organize and invite all the constituents to an annual general meeting of the riding to bring the stakeholders and general public together once a year, see how we can work together collectively to organize it and to address all the issues that we went over tonight. And talking about the weather is usually neutral ground for most of the time in this riding.
With that, that's the conclusion of our question period. I'm happy to announce that because we're running ahead of schedule, we can give you up to 4 minutes for your closings. So we'll start with Mr. Weber.
Yeah, I'm a little surprised that one of the topics that didn't come up here was our education system. It's another broken system, sort of like the healthcare system. And I think, isn't the boss here of that system? Wouldn't you want to talk about that a little bit? Because, I mean, there's a lot of shortages there. One thing, I've talked to a bunch of teachers and EAs. The EAs is what we need because they are stuck working with just the special needs students there. So that leaves the teacher with the rest of the class and those few students that need that extra little bump that the EAs are usually there to do, don't get it. So they're lost in the system. And so we got to concentrate on that education system a little bit and get people in there, get it fixed. And if I'm elected, that would be something I would definitely work on, is helping out the teachers and helping out the education system, because the kids are our future. Let's spend some money there if it takes money, which it does. I mean, because wages are money. So, and I guess we'll leave that at that. I'm just going to say, in my final words, that if you want a strong and determined voice in Fredericton, that's not going to be told by my leader or something to go sit down and shut up because you're going, ruffling feathers a little bit. Well, because I will. If that's what I have to do to get things done for my riding, I'll go down there and ruffle all the feathers in the whole city. There'll be a pigeon untouched. Thanks for coming, people. Vote purple. Thanks.
Ms. Pelkey.
Thank you. Well, you've had lots of information provided to you here this evening, and like my friend Charlie here has said, there were many topics that we didn't touch on. General affordability and education being two that are at the forefront of most citizens' minds nowadays. And I'm sure there are many others, and if we were to poll the audience, you could probably think of a half a dozen other things that you'd like for us to speak on. On that, I would encourage you really to explore each party's platform, see what they are presenting, read the details, have those critical thoughts, engage in critical analysis, and really do your homework to make your decision about who you are going to trust. there is a bit of an advantage or a disadvantage with the current government having been in power for the last 6 years. You can evaluate them on their performance on those years. You can use that information and filter that into the decision that you're going to make. But I'd also encourage you to look at the leadership and look who you are choosing from for the leadership of this province. That is the biggest decision, and also who you are going to choose from as your elected representative at the legislature. I talked a little bit about what led me to be up on the stage and door knocking throughout the community today. And like many of you, I was just wholly unhappy with the direction that the province was going in. It's not the direction that I envision for myself. It's not the direction that I envision for my children. I want them to grow up and be proud of where we are and the leadership that we have. So as a result of not seeing the leadership that I wanted for my province, I decided I had no choice but to become involved, to be that choice, to offer people a true option that they can be confident in and that they can trust to represent them well. I was compelled to leverage my skills, my experience, my education, my years of public service to another level and represent the community as a whole. So again, I ask you to do your due diligence, engage in that critical thought, and when you come to your decision, I want you to remember me humbly asking for your vote. Thank you.
Mr. Sheets.
Well, Premier Higgs, I believe, has taken the province in the wrong direction as well. Rather than focusing on the kitchen table issues that matter to New Brunswick families, he has been busy rewarding his rich connected friends with tax cuts and chasing ideological obsessions. It is time to give people a break. People need a break on the cost of living. People also need a break from the established political parties who have long governed this province and failed to solve our problems. Our plan is about making the tangible investments needed to reduce the cost of living and create economic prosperity by making New Brunswick the best place to live, work, and raise a family. We will pay for the commitments in our plan by making the biggest corporations and the ultra-rich pay their fair share. I believe our party's platform, our election platform, is going to be released on Wednesday. The cost is all going to be broken down, that anyone can go through it. It's a sound plan. So I'm looking forward to that. The NDP, as I believe, I want a voice of them back in the legislature. I don't know if any of you remember Elizabeth Greer back in the 90s. She was a fierce opposition, one member, but she outshined the whole opposition benches of many members on the other side of the House. We need that NDP voice back in the legislature. We need the voice of reason. We need the voice that will speak up for the working poor, for the less fortunate. People are hurting worse now than I've ever seen or heard in my lifetime. Seniors that are having a hard time to go with paycheck to paycheck. They have to decide whether they want to buy $100 worth of groceries or put the money with their NB power bill. This is wrong. This should not be happening. Things need to change, and it can change. Start with some opposition NDP voices in the legislature. We will fight for the working poor, for the less fortunate. And I work for Loblaws. There's people, I'm based out of Woodstock Superstore. There's employees in the store stocking shelves that can't afford, with an employee discount, can't afford to buy the food they're stocking on the shelves. This is shameful as well. It's the whole social issues in this province that needs addressing. And I want to ask every single one to think honestly about it, whether you think change will happen with the Liberals, if they're going to be that much better than blaming Higgs' Conservatives. Think about it honestly. I don't think so myself. I think we need a new voice in the legislature, the NDP. I believe in the party, I believe in policies, I believe in the leader, and I ask every single one to get out and vote. This is the most important thing. Exercise your right to vote, whether you vote for me or someone else in here, it's okay. Just vote, get out and vote. That's the best advice I can give. We're lucky that we live, as I said before, in a democratic province and country. So I thank you for your time tonight, and good evening. Thank you.
Ms. Roach.
I imagine you're all quite tired by now. wanted to run for the Green Party because this province awes me on a daily basis with its strength, with its beauty, with its ability and purpose. And it's really saddened me over the last 6 years to watch that be ground down into a benefit for a corporation, maybe a few in the upper tax ranges, and the rest of us are struggling, barely getting by. So when I was thinking about running, it really came down to what matters to me. And those things are our right to care, to health care for everybody, to making life affordable, to taking some climate action. Things like the Brighton Mountain Wind Farm, that's just going to get dropped into place without anybody's say-so. That matters to me because there's so many headwaters at the top of that mountain, and we have so much beauty here. Why would we want to destroy it? We need renewables, but maybe that's not the best place for it. We want to expand local services because we're all just starved of those services. Be it the police, be it doctors, counselors, you name it, we just don't seem to have it. And I don't think we even realized when we lost it to begin with. Most importantly, we want to end deep poverty. You know you can see it around here. You don't have to go out driving very far to see deep, deep poverty. It's 2024. Nobody in this province or in this country should be living like that. And ultimately, you all have a right to a safe and healthy environment, one with clean air, safe water, and just the beauty that is this province. We can make it better. We can do better for ourselves and for everyone else. Mostly I want to encourage you, like everyone else, to vote. When we vote, we've had our say. I've had my children voting with me since they were knee-high to a grasshopper, so they understood, especially as women, the responsibility that they have as a citizen to place their vote. So I'm really happy to see everybody engaged here who clearly want to vote. So it doesn't matter who it is. Well, it does, but I can't say that. Just get out and vote, do your part, and help us make New Brunswick a better place. Thank you.
Mr. Hogan.
Thank you, and thank you for coming out this evening. Thank you at home for joining us. It's a really important election that we're talking about. Two significant philosophical differences. We spent the last 6 years ago, New Brunswick was going over the cliff financially. We were facing bankruptcy. That was at the end of the Brian Gallant government, and that was when Susan Holt also worked with Brian Gallant. We didn't know how we were going to pay our debt off. To service the provincial debt was the fourth highest budget line in our provincial budget. We paid down over $2 billion on our debt. Because of that, we pay between $80 and $100 million less a year to service that debt. That's $80 to $100 million that can go to a different program. We haven't raised one tax. We don't want to raise any taxes. We pay as we go. One of the interesting things I hear a lot, there's a big surplus, you should spend it. A lot of the surplus arrives, the budget year goes from the end of March, the beginning of April to the end of March. We get a big chunk of money at the beginning of March from our HST rebate from the federal government that comes from the people on how much money they've spent throughout the year. In a month, you can't spend $1 billion. That's why the surpluses have been so out of whack, because spending is not slowed down. We've done a lot of great things as a government that I'm proud of. We've raised minimum wage twice, and we've tied it to CPI so that April 1st every year it goes up. We've doubled our low-income senior benefit from $300 to $600. We work hard to help people. New Brunswick is a place to be. It's on the move. It's growing. We want business to come here. We're lowering the HST by 2%. That's the 2% that Brian Gallant and Susan Holt raised it. Susan Holt currently is projecting over $1 billion deficit. We just came out of that. We can't go back to it. We need to keep moving forward, paying off our debt. And why is that? It's for my grandchildren, your grandchildren, my great-grandchildren, so that we can continue to have a prosperous province. We're one of the best provinces in Canada. And we're ranked that way economically. We're ranked that way for cost of living, style of living, and people want to move here, and they are moving here. So with that comes a lot of challenges that we have to face, and we're facing them head on. We won't solve them overnight because they didn't start overnight. But we have a plan to solve them. We have a plan to take the money, invest the money wisely, and to help make New Brunswick affordable for all of its citizens, including you, and not raise your taxes. Because I think you pay enough taxes now. But we reduced income tax 3 times. It wasn't a lot, but we still reduced it. We reduced property tax on non-owner occupied properties from 2% to 1.5%. We've reduced all kinds of taxes in our time in government. And we've done that because we've been fiscally responsible. We're going to continue to do that. This is an important election. I asked for your vote on October 21st so I can go back to Fredericton and continue to make New Brunswick build stronger and stronger. Thank you.
Mr. Culberson.
Yes, thank you. In my closing remarks, I'd like to say that if I was elected as your MLA, I would do my best to run a good administration office within somewhere within the county. I have a BBA from UNV. I have complete training in accounting and finance. I've run my own farming business for many, many years in the county. I do believe under the Legislative Assembly Act, we were given $50,000 to run an MLA's office. I would put that to its best use. I would pledge to hire the best receptionist at the Woodstock Heartland Constituency office. I pledge to do my best to answer phone calls, emails, and address any concerns you might have. In closing, I believe in empowering others, type of leadership, and working with existing clubs, organizations, co-ops, churches, town councils, and village organizations. I'm ready to lead in this manner. Elect me as an independent candidate and put me to work. Thank you.
Thank you all for participating in this evening's forum. And I will now turn it over to Mayor Jones.
Thank you all, and thank you for respecting the time so well that we're ahead of schedule. So I will say, I gotta stand, I'm a little taller, sorry. Thank you all for being respectful as well. It's really important. And please get out and vote. Please educate yourselves. We have another debate, don't we, folks, next week at Townsview School. And I think it's important that to acknowledge that the schools are making civics a priority. So all levels of classes, I've been in all kinds, from kindergarten all the way to grade 12, the last year or two, talking to classes about their civics. They asked some really fun questions and some really challenging questions. And I hope it leads to a culture of a more engaged citizenship, because we need to educate ourselves on all of the levels of politics and how they impact your lives. We notoriously have very low voter turnout, but everyone complains. So we live in a democratic society, and we should be thankful for that. When we look around the globe and we see what's happening, we have the ability to decide and shape who is the next person that's in this seat. And we look forward as a council to working with whomever is elected. Again, it's always a fresh start, because things will change no matter what. And I encourage you all to continue to get out and speak with all of your constituents. It's a huge riding. The riding has changed. And again, you've got how many days left? I know you're all counting. 13. So good luck to all of you. I wish you all well, and I'll see you all next week at Townsview anyway. And again, please encourage your friends, family, everyone to do their homework and to get out and vote. And we're here for another 10 minutes for tear down, so please feel free if you have a question or a follow-up. We could have added another 100 questions to the list. but you're all tired and so am I, and we all want to get home. So please take a few minutes, and once again, please, congratulations to all of you for running. Thank you for your participation tonight, and we'll give them all one big round of applause.